Item 10A, receive a report on the appeal of FEMA San Francisco Bay Coastal Study results for the City of San Bruno.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. The FEMA item in front of you has been brought to the City Council several times as it is of importance to our community and will likely have a significant financial impact to some of our residents once the flood maps are finalized. Tonight, I would like to provide a brief overview of the impact and update you on what the city has done to assist the residents in our city in the next steps. So FEMA has already completed the coastal hazard study and determined the flooding area and revised base flood elevation for coastal communities. And the result of the study will be used by FEMA to update the flood insurance rate maps, otherwise known as FERMs. In previous FEMA FERMs, the entire San Bruno was categorized as Zone D, and Zone D is used by FEMA for areas where there are possible but undetermined flood hazards, since no flood hazards analysis was conducted. And property owners in Zone D are encouraged to purchase flood insurance, but it's not federally required by mortgage lenders. However, the recently completed coastal flood hazard study by FEMA has identified numerous properties within the city's Bel Air neighborhood as potentially being inundated by flooding. So here's a slide that shows the new flooding inundation area in the Bel Air neighborhood based on FEMA's analysis. The source of flooding from their analysis includes three sources, one from the navigable slough located in South San Francisco. The tie gate structure, even though it exists, FEMA neglects that because it's not accredited structure, and the City and County San Francisco Airport levees. These properties, which were categorized with Zone D, will now be in a higher flood risk zone, indicated by Zone AE in blue that you see there. And properties being mapped into Zone AE do not have an option to purchase flood insurance like Zone D, but will be required to purchase flood insurance if the property has a mortgage from a lender. And the option of whether to purchase flood insurance or not is only available if the property is completely paid off. So what has the city done since we were informed of the new FEMA mapping until now? Well, the city has performed numerous coordination and activities leading towards to staff recommendation of filing an appeal. This slide shows a timeline of various events that took place since we were informed back in November 2014. As you can see, the city has performed numerous coordination activities throughout the couple of years. And to highlight a few, when the city first knew about the mapping changes, staff came to council back in January 2015 to award a contract to an engineering firm that has experience in coastal flooding analysis, Moffett & Nichol, to provide technical assistance. And staff also coordinated and met with representatives from County of San Mateo, Congresswoman Jackie Spears' office, and City of South San Francisco in early March of this year to discuss the flooding issues and also seek their assistance. And towards the end of March, staff came back to council to award a contract to Moffett & Nichol again to develop additional hydraulic analysis and file an appeal to FEMA. So as part of the FEMA mapping process, agencies are provided an opportunity to conduct their own technical analysis and submit the information to FEMA for consideration as part of an appeal process. An appeal period is open for 90 days, and no extension is provided by FEMA. And upon receipt of the appeal package, FEMA has 60 days to engage with the agency to clarify these technical analysis and determine whether the changes will be accepted. If there are no mutually acceptable resolution, the city can request FEMA to submit an appeal document for review by a scientific resolution panel, which serves as an independent third-party reviewer. And the scientific resolution panel process allows the FEMA to work with communities to ensure that the flood hazard area depicted on the maps are built collaboratively using the best science available. So prior to starting the evaluation, our consultant, Moffett & Nichol, collected various information such as hydraulic model input data, topographic data used in the San Mateo County flood mapping, and storm surge information and tide gauge readings from FEMA. And the reason is that we wanted to ensure that we use all the correct data that FEMA used, so there wouldn't be any questions in regards to where we obtained the background information used in the model. Moffett then used the FEMA's information and performed the analysis, And the evaluation identified that FEMA's analysis using what is called a steady state approach to map the flood zone is too conservative. FEMA analysis, they don't consider any duration of the tide level and simply applied a static base flood elevation. The elevation of FEMA derived in the analysis for San Bruno was 10.4 feet, and therefore any properties within 10.4 feet or below are considered to be flooded in the FEMA's model. And FEMA assumed an infinite amount of water coming in, but nothing's really going out. And Moffett Nickel applied an alternative method using FEMA's approved unsteady, the 2D model, and using information that FEMA provided to them to produce more accurate surface flooding areas. And the alternative model results shows much less of flooding in the Bear Earth neighborhood. So you can see this slide here, the comparison between FEMA's preliminary firm on the left side and with the 2D model that the consultant had generated. You can see that there's a tremendous amount of areas that are removed from flooding between the two. The comparison shows that the flooding inundation at the areas at the south of Pine Street using the 2D model is basically gone. Therefore, it's evident that using a more accurate modeling method that accounts for duration of the flood and produce a different result in the area and that would be potentially considered to be flooded. And this is the basis of our appeal to FEMA. And the remaining flood area north of Pine Street is contributed by the floodwater overtopping from the south bank of the slough, the navigable slough located in South San Francisco, and it travels south along Shaw Road and into San Bruno, and underneath the I-380 underpass into 7th Avenue. And the results, as you can see, between the two areas here are very similar to one another that what FEMA had generated. So since the slough is located in South San Francisco, a collaborative effort between both agencies as well as the county is required to determine the mitigation measures that are cost-effective and to minimize environmental impacts. And the timeline for this is currently unknown since funding needs to be established and environmental assessment needs to be conducted to determine the impacts. The appeal package will be hand-delivered to FEMA tomorrow morning. And among the agencies in the peninsula, we heard that only South San Francisco and San Bruno are submitting the appeal. And staff believe that submitting the appeal is the only way to get FEMA's attention of our analysis, although we cannot predict FEMA's ultimate decision on our appeal. It's difficult to determine how FEMA would respond. Staff has tried to engage FEMA in meeting with us to discuss the analysis, but FEMA has been inflexible. They refused to meet with us to provide any guidance and requested the city to submit the appeal package. FEMA representative mentioned that they will only meet with the city after receiving the appeal package. So the city hopes that FEMA will provide a fair review of our analysis and accept it so our residents within the area south of Pine Street will not be mapped into the new flood maps and be subjected to paying the mandatory flood insurance. As for the public outreach, community meeting will be scheduled with FEMA technical and insurance representatives. The city contacted FEMA in the past to schedule the meeting, but FEMA was reluctant to meet with us since we were not agreeable to their mapping. Since staff will continue to coordinate with FEMA to request for a community meeting. And there are no fiscal impact associated with this update, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jimmy?
Through the chair, I'd just like to say thank you for the diligence, and also want to thank Congresswoman Jackie Spear for seems to be a fairly stern letter to FEMA to work with you, and I think the residents appreciate all the hard work because the flood insurance is expensive, and if it's true that it's not warranted, then job well done. So hopefully we'll have our fingers crossed on that.
I also want to mention that we received a letter of support from Supervisor Pine's office as well today, late in the afternoon, which we weren't able to include it in the staff
Great.
report.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.